Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out to Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Billy Highvault, Burn Fat Till My Stomach is as Flat as the Earth, Chow Uncut, Dank, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, Felix Hung, Fireball X, Godrockin, Jeronism, Joshua, Kirsten, Life is Short, Matt, Michael, Naibai, Paige, Reinhardt, Renee, Sally, Sam, Skeptic936, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com, Tina Baker, and Tom Hawkins. Massive shout out to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now we are joined by Flatzoid, first of all, in Google Plus. Or maybe not. It's gone already. Lovely jubbly. Isn't that epic timing? We do have a few people in Discord though, fortunately. Hello to everyone in Discord. Tumbleweeds.
Hey Nathan.
Yay! A reply. Ah, oh, don't let me down, Discord. Thank you so much.
Hey Nathan.
Hello, hello.
This is kind of off topic. I got a question.
Go ahead.
I know you like cars and everything. You watch that show? What's that? Gear? Top Gear, that's what it is.
Sure.
Do you know who the Stig is? I want to know who the Stig is.
Ben Collins. Ben Collins.
I didn't hear you.
Ben Collins. Yeah, he's done a few. You can find interviews with Ben Collins about him being the Stig on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Appreciate that. I was like, I always wonder all these years, who is that?
Well, there was an original one. There was a black Stig. I'm not 100% about this, but I'm pretty certain it was Tiff Nadell. So Black Stig, who they killed in a nitrous injected V12 Jaguar XJ. So I think they blew him off the end of an aircraft carrier in this nitrous injected Jag, and that was the end of Black Stig. And then I think that's when Ben Collins came along and replaced Black Stig with White Stig, which is the Stig everyone knows is White Stig.
Yeah, I like racing cars.
Cool. Yeah, me too. I like watching 1320 and stuff. Watching the drag racing. Excellent stuff. Keeps me amused for hours.
Oh yeah. I have 3 cars. I want to fix.
Cut off. You got 3 cars. What?
I said I got 3 cars. I have a Honda Del Sol. I want to build for a drag car, and I got 2 other cars.
Honda Del Sol. Is a Honda Del Sol basically a Civic, but in a nice, pretty frock?
Almost like you remember the CRX? That's what it replaced the CRX.
Okay.
You know, it's the 2-door with the T-top.
Yeah, I think I know what a Del Sol is. Yeah, it's basically a Civic, but it's much prettier. It looks like a proper sports car.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Where's Righteous at? I ain't seen him yet.
It often doesn't turn up on a Friday. I don't know why. I'm already braced for having to, take everyone off mute in Discord. So that's, it's all right.
Got to deal with the fundies.
Yep. Occasionally I'll show my wife some of the racing videos on YouTube just because they're interesting based on the timing. So there's this dude who's just completed, they have this thing in the States called Drag Week, where they basically drive these, they would never get away with being street cars here, but they're street cars. They literally drive them on the street from track to track doing these quarter-mile races. And right at the end of Drag Week, this dude who's driven the whole week in his, in his very, very souped-up pro mod car, but on the street, he's done the whole journey, basic tools in his trailer, and on the last track, in the quarter of a mile, he gets up to 250 miles an hour in I think it was 6 seconds. It's just absolutely ludicrous, right? But around about the same time, Bugatti hit 300 miles an hour, just over. I think it was 306 miles an hour, something like that, in one direction. So not a world record. But I said to my wife, I was like, yeah, it seems good that Bugatti getting up to 300 miles an hour. That's cool on this great big massive long stretch, and obviously it's a production car, so that's a real feat, right? But by the same token, this dude here, quarter of a mile, 250 miles an hour. You're like, now that's impressive. You know what I mean? Not only that, he's done a whole week of driving. He's done a whole week of driving and thrashing the living shit out of the car on the tracks when he gets there, and then just driving on to the next one for a full week. You're like, so it's not like it's just he's melted the engine after doing that. He drove it home. It's just awesome. Anyway, probably not having trouble getting in, 10th man.
Hello, I'm back.
Oh, there I am.
Bummer.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. It's going to be a short day for me, so don't worry about fixing the Hangouts. But yeah, it was just the same old problem.
I mean, I've got time to rectify it. Did you say you're not going to hang around long anyway?
Yeah, probably 10 minutes into the actual show.
Fair enough. Okay, I won't stress about it. If it causes an issue, the live show goes out on the second channel on a Friday, so it's like kind of less stressful. I don't know why. Just a smaller audience.
It's in the future.
But yeah,
Laid back show.
The main audience gets to see it at a later date. That does help, and obviously there's less sharing to be done for the live show because it gets switched off afterwards. But I don't know, having a more limited audience is just a bit less stressful.
Yeah, no big deal. So, go on. I just jumped on.
We're only talking cars. This is definitely off topic.
Oh, I love cars.
And tractors.
No, cars. I love tractors too. Anything with an engine. I was just watching, Jay Leno, the night show host. He has a thing on YouTube called Jay Leno's Garage, and
Yeah,
it's his own YouTube. It's his own YouTube channel, and it's titled
quite a
Jay
collection.
Leno's Garage.
Yeah, he's got a huge collection.
Yeah, he does, and it goes, and he has all these different cars that he highlights in short snippets of either 10, 12 minutes to 30 minutes. And he brings in people with their own cars and lets them, say how they built it from scratch, where they get the engine. He had this one yesterday where the guy got two Italian engines to put into an American car. And he said, wow, it's usually the other way around. But these happen to be like airplane engines. And the thing only gets 10 miles per gallon. I mean, 10 gallons per mile. And he's only got a 22-gallon tank. And they were talking about how expensive it would be to drive it. But, I mean, the thing looks beautiful. It's a restored, I think it was a Bel Air that he widened the body. It was gorgeous. So anyway, if you have time, Jay Leno's Garage.
Yeah, I like Jay Leno's Garage. he had a guy on with this car that had been built, and it had been built in Britain, and the car, while they were developing it, was deemed. I hope I'm not mixing two stories together here, but I think this is correct. The car was supposed to be scrapped by General Motors on account of the fact that they were becoming a monopoly and they couldn't have a race division, but this guy continues to make this car. And one of these cars had the actual manufacturing plant for the windscreen next to it, which was actually a plant that usually made bus windscreens. But upon it all folding, and I'm sure I am actually mixing two stories up now. I'm gonna stop this story because I think I've now mixed up two different stories. But nevertheless, the point of the stories was to say that these dudes will just bring him their cars and let him use them. And in one particular instance, the car which had been found, this one that had been literally moved from the manufacturing plant next to the plant that was making the windscreens for it, they'd shuffled it across, they'd knocked down the wall, and then it had literally just sat there in this bus factory for like 20 years, and then the guy comes along, buys it, restores it, spends an absolute fortune on the thing, and then presents it to Jay Leno. Now, upon presenting it to him, this thing has got 1 mile on the clock. You know, the thing's probably worth 10 million. You know, it's ludicrously expensive. And Jay's like, "You're alright if I fire it up and drive it around though, right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, by all means." So he's essentially driving this fully restored, probably one of 3 or 5 or some ludicrously small number of cars, and he's just driving it around on this airfield. And I'm like, "Geez, man, you're sticking mileage on it." You know, and I realise that's what cars are for, and that would ultimately be what I want. I mean, at the same time, I was filled with joy the fact that he's actually gone out and driven the thing. You know, it's like not going to just become an art piece. But by the same token, the fact that he just handed over the keys to Jay Leno to drive it, you know, it'd been polished up and transported and, you know, not driven anywhere, and then he's firing it up and driving it. You're like, obviously a lot of car owners have got a high degree of respect for Jay Leno, obviously, why wouldn't you? But to the degree that this guy was handing over the keys to a car that was, I'm not going to say priceless, but extremely valuable, with 1 mile on the clock, and going, "Yeah, sure, yeah, go off and drive it, we've just fully restored it." Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll tell the story down the road. I was driving with my brother-in-law. No, it wasn't my brother-in-law. It was a friend I hadn't seen for a while, so the topic of Jay Leno came up. And so he says, "Oh, I really like Jay Leno." And I said, "Yeah, he's a cool guy. I got his phone number." And he looks at me, he goes, "You ain't got Jay Leno's phone number." And I go, "I do have Jay Leno's phone number." He goes, "You do not have Jay Leno's phone." I go, "Look at my phone." So he gets my phone, and sure enough, it says Jay Leno, and I got his phone number. He couldn't believe it. Oh, gosh. Anyway, the other side will be private, but I do have his phone number.
Cool. Very cool. Need a reason to ring him.
Well, since I'm here a short time, Zanuck came back for more of a beating, and I'm sure he'll keep coming back. I mean, this guy's just crazy on his interpretation of reference frames.
Well, he is and he isn't. They've just come up with the crappy plan to put everything in the frame of reference that the observation's taking place from. So you only have to talk about the trajectory of the thing that's being observed. In other words, take it away from them, force them to no longer refer to the observation and instead refer only to the trajectory of the pendulum. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly they're screwed.
Yeah, you caught him. You caught him on the first show. You nailed it on the second, well, not show, but the second time. And it was obviously what they're doing, the doublespeak and the dishonesty of what the topic is and what you're asking and what their own side has already said in print. My goodness, didn't I just put that whole article that talked about the Earth moves underneath west to east, and anything above it is free flying, and that's what causes the core. I mean, it's in their own side's argument.
Right, but the reason they've done it in the way they have is win, lose or draw, if they're arguing about how the Coriolis effect works, and they will only be in the position that you're observing things from a non-inertial spinning reference frame, then they're forcing the argument to be worked around the begging the question fallacy that we are spinning. So the impression that's left at the end of the argument, potentially, if it works for them, is that you're always going to have...
What you just did there, how you just said that, that's exactly, should be a toe tag right in front of them, because that exactly with the economy of words that you said, it was perfect.
Sure, but it takes a little while in arguing about it to figure out the intention behind it, the purpose behind it. Well, they need to beg the question. They need to beg the question of spinning, so why not have it always be argued from the point of view of an observer who is in a non-inertial spinning reference frame or on a spinning Earth. So that's how they do it. They're just going to argue that no, it's always in a non-inertial spinning reference frame, which is roughly translated, Earth's always going to be spinning in my argument.
Mm-hmm.
Even though at that point you're arguing about the non-deflection, the fact that you're not observing things drift. And drift is what you need to prove it spins. Sorry, go on.
No, but you know the argument, so you just took it apart and showed us how. So good luck trying it again.
Good fun being with Miley Cyrus.
That got a bit crazy, but yes, pendulum's a pendulum. Whether it's a hippopotamus or Miley Cyrus, it still swings back and forth. Straight line.
That's it. But no matter what happens, the order of the day for them is to say, well, no, that's still in the non-inertial spinning reference frame. Or, again, to loosely translate, oh, no, that's still being watched from a spinning ball Earth. That's all they mean. It's just a way of the question.
Well, then there goes your bullet argument. There goes your tornado, your hurricane argument. There goes your football. There goes everything.
No, you've missed the subtlety. You can still argue that they're observing it drift from a non-inertial spinning reference frame, or claim they're observing it not drift from a non-inertial spinning reference frame. The point being, arguing a winning point or a losing point in this double speak that is ultimately false from the get-go, they can always take the position where they beg the question in the initial stance. It's always taking place.
Well, let me finish what I was going to say. So there goes all those arguments that they clung on to, but then when we bring in the airliner, the jet plane, from LAX to Charlotte, North Carolina and back, and that should take 1.5 hours instead of 4.5 hours. The contrast is, well, if you're going to take this new stance on it, then why don't we see that as well? Why don't we see everything, even those things with, like the helicopter, greater hang time? So even what you're saying is true, but it's still limited to what they've used as examples. They can't turn it and use everything as an example with that new being observer from the non-inertial reference plane.
No.
So it's still limited.
No. They just double speak at that point and say, no, that plane's still in the same reference frame, because they're going to phrase it from the point of view of you watching the plane. And I'm going to talk about you being on the plane, travelling in the inertial reference frame, or claim to be in a separate reference frame with Earth rotating underneath. I'll say, oh, no, it's still in the same frame from your vantage point watching it, assuming the Earth is spinning. That's the point.
Yeah, but they look stupid doing it.
Well, only because we've caught them out. They could have got away with it.
Yeah. I can't wait for someone to do that.
They can have an earful of me screaming at them and calling them stupid and pointing out where they're wrong. And having long, protracted silences when I go, what about if I'm sat with Miley Cyrus on the pendulum? That the non-inertial spinning reference frame, that pendulum going straight, and then there's long, protracted silences. And in the attempts to say those sentences, there's lots of discord rumpusing, very telling to the audience. Especially when I'm like right up on my mic going, oh yeah, that's going to make the audience remember.
What if you have a camera on the helicopter hovering over the X, so you're looking at it from the helicopter?
Don't use those words. Sorry to correct you. Just use the
No,
word
go ahead.
trajectory. What's the trajectory? How do you plot the path of the trajectory of the pendulum? What's that frame of reference going to look like when you plot you're not looking at the trajectory, which is what they'll immediately do. Well, when I watch the no, what is the trajectory? That's all we'll get. But that's going to be quick. It won't be an hour of convoluted misunderstandings between flat earthers and globers who've got a plan in their mind of how they're going to obfuscate this. Oh, why don't we see any deviation? Why don't we have the actual proof of Earth spinning? They'll just obfuscate round it for an hour until they get to a mildly losing or winning point, and the entire time they've begged the question and said, no, it's all taking place on a spinning Earth, or it's all taking place on a non-inertial spinning reference frame. So long as they're begging the question the entire time of the argument, they'll get the perceived, or what they thought would be a perceived win at the end of it. Well, it's just a shame that was rumbled very quickly. And now every time there'll be these protracted silences and Discord rumpusing with me laughing and pretending I'm having a little orgasm while they squirm.
No, I get it. You're saying that take the observer totally out of it and go for the coordinates of the trajectory of the pendulum itself.
Precisely. Next time they say, it's all in one reference frame, really. The trajectory of the pendulum's the same as the spinning reference. No, it's not. Well, and what you'll get is a long silence.
Yeah.
Or they'll Discord rumpus you and stop you from getting that question out. Well, now everyone knows the game. It's been highlighted with me yelling it into the microphone at them. How effective that will be. When a few people miss the point and go, you don't need to yell at people. I'm right, okay, I'll do what I like. They're lying bastards, and we've caught them out. Lying.
Oh,
hey,
gosh.
Owen.
What was that, Zanuck?
Hey, 10th man.
I mean, not Zanuck. Zanuck.
Hello?
Hey, 10th man.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hold on.
What? Am I the only one here?
Hold on. Can you not hear 10th man?
I seem to be the only icon I can see in here.
10th man's icon goes black for some reason at the start of each of these shows. I have no idea why it's done that ever since he's joined. So,
can you present something, 10th
I am.
man, so I can actually see you?
Oh, sorry. Got 60 seconds, then we're starting the live show, so make it snappy if you're going to fiddle in.
Whee. I discussed R today.
Gone quiet.
show.
Alright, well, we're out of time for sound checking and all that jazz. I'm going to have to start the live show. Sorry.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome, take two, to Flat Earth Debate. No, not Uncut. Totally in the middle because I was on mute. I'll start that again. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Flatsoid, Arwin, and 10th Man on G+. How are you all doing? Hello.
Hello. Yeah, Righteous Force is here as well, by the way.
Well, great
I
start
still
to the
don't
live
see
show.
10th Man.
Hello, Righteous Force.
I think he is.
If 10th man was there, then I would be able to click him, and I can't. Sleeping Warrior's in.
What's up?
Wait, yeah.
Yeah, rough start to the live show. Me choking on a frog in my throat, forgetting to take myself off mute. It's all been a bit disastrous. Then introduced 10th man and Arwen, got total silence from G+. Great start, great start. We're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord, so hello to all of you in Discord.
Yes,
Shout
10th man.
out to the frogs.
Ah, that's why he didn't hear 10th man. He's in Discord.
I'm in Discord. That's what I was
Right.
trying to say.
See? You were trying to gaslight me, weren't you?
I wasn't trying to gaslight. I'm just mistaken. I just forgot he was in Discord.
I know.
Flatzoid's disappeared, though. That's what added to the confusion.
Disappeared?
As
Where did he go?
Right, let's get on with it. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Any obstructions curve, Nathan? You know that there's about 70 reasons why it's not curved, but any obstruction we'll claim as curvature.
And not just
No curvature
obstruction.
from California still.
Concealment as well, Anthony.
Yeah, anything. If we don't see the beach, then it's curve.
And if you do see it, it's looming hyena.
Yeah, it's looming.
hologram.
So you're damned either way. If you see it, then it's looming. If you don't see it, it's curve.
No, the assertion that it's curve, obstruction that is, requires a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator to define how and why something that has reached the point of disappearing, the diffraction limit, point of interference, point that things disappear, is actually a reified Earth curve edge obscuring something at a given amount when you use an R value and mathematics that exclude perspective. So any obstruction is Earth curve. That's not evidence of Earth curve. That's evidence that fundamentalist religious zealots can beg the question, assume an R value, and apply a mathematical formula that reifies the horizon, an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground, into their curve edge of their model. Any other evidence of Earth curve?
Nope.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope.
Sunsets, Nathan. Sunsets. You only need to see a sunset, and that proves that the Earth's turning.
Sunsets.
Yeah, that proves that the Earth's turning. You've got to be a moron to think otherwise, Nathan.
When they be called Earth turns,
Yeah. Sunsets.
that's the sun moving beyond the arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground again. Is that
No,
what you
Nathan.
mean?
The sun's not moving, moron. The Earth's turning.
It appears to move. Are you talking about the apparent position when it meets of the sun, when it meets the apparent position of the horizon? That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. I'm talking about the appearance of the sun going down is not actually going down. It's us rotating. It's obvious, Nathan. Sunsets prove that the Earth's turning.
Again, you require formulation of a begging the question fallacy, probably an affirming the consequent to go along with it. But no, unless you assume you are on a ball and that the reified edge called the horizon, the arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground, is a position, an actual position, that a not actual sun, in its not actual position, moves beyond. That's nonsense. That doesn't prove anything.
You're just a moron, Nathan.
It's just me, I don't understand, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Any more axial rotation evidence for the stationary plane we obviously dry up?
Yeah, the stars, Nathan. The celestial sphere.
There we go. Let's hear it. The stars seem to move. That's interesting.
Yeah, they all go round. They go round in opposite directions on different sides of the globe, Nathan. How do you explain that in your model?
You turn around.
Right. So again, you've begged the question and asserted that the stars are moving because the Earth is a sphere. That's not proving the Earth's a sphere. That's proving you can beg the question again. It was the same with the sun now, wasn't it? Seems like I'm repeating myself.
But they do turn in different directions, Nathan, on the other side of the Earth. So why is that? How is that possible on your model? Come on, let's see your model.
You're just wrong. No, they don't. All the stars rise in the east and set in the west.
You're just a moron, Nathan.
Okay. Any more evidence that the Earth rotates? None so far.
No. Consensus. Scientific
go.
consensus. All the hundreds of years of studies prove it.
What? The hundreds of years.
Morning,
of
guys.
studies. Hey, chocolate.
Morning.
Chocolate.
Good morning, chocolate.
Yeah, I don't think
Yo.
Do I need to address consensus? Is that necessary?
Just in case you weren't listening, chocolate, I'm just trolling Nathan a little bit because it's been a bit boring recently because the ball, everything's talking about Coriolis and I'm bored of it. So I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit by having a dynamic system where it mixes everything up a little bit. So I'm just trolling Nathan a little bit. Just giving some of the popular arguments.
Yeah, as soon as I came in, the first thing I heard was, Nathan, you're a moron. So, I see where we're at today. It's Friday.
I can't
This
help
is what
the way,
flat do when they're bored.
I can't help the way that the housekeeping questions get addressed. You know, the fact that axial rotation is currently being double speaked with Coriolis. That's not my doing. I'm not doing that.
So can I just demonstrate? Can I just point out to the audience that might not be aware that this is what flat earthers do when they're bored of the current topic? We take on the role of bad ball earth arguments and play devil's advocate badly.
Yeah, it's really good fun for
Isn't
me.
that called training?
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yeah, of course. Mic drop. Hello. Everything falls to the ground, Nathan. Hello.
I'm not playing anymore. Someone else
Oh,
deal
come
with
on.
this.
Grabble teeth.
As long as we don't talk
Gravity
about
is
Coriolis,
gravity
I'm
is
fine.
not a force, but it's a force.
Yeah, gravity is
Well
not
said.
a force, but it is a force. Oh, it's hilarious.
But it's in seriousness. Has anybody got any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, they're still looking for it, but problem is, as you're looking for it, it's good to know what it actually is supposed to be doing first, where it comes from, but they haven't gotten to that yet, really, and don't really plan to, I think, anymore.
Yeah, gravimeters prove gravity, Nathan.
Great. They just need new devices, like the old Cavendish kind of set up devices to presupposedly prove it. That'll satisfy the public.
Gravimeters, Nathan.
I said I wasn't playing. Okay, fine. Scientific evidence is gravimeters, right? What's the natural phenomena?
Everything falls down.
Mic
You've
drop
got to
it.
be a moron.
Go on. What's the natural phenomena we're observing?
Things fall down.
Things fall down is the natural phenomena being observed in the gravimeter, is it?
Okay, so things seem to be being pulled by the center of mass, otherwise known as the core of the Earth. That better?
No, that's a presupposition. What's the phenomenon? What's happening? What are you watching that's happening?
All right, everything's being attracted to the ground by a magnetic imaginary force.
No, it isn't. Helium balloons go up. This is nonsense.
Oh shit! Oh shit! I didn't think of helium balloons.
Shit
going up.
does go down, though.
I'm sorry, Nathan. I didn't think about helium balloons.
We've
going
moved
up. I
past
have no
Coriolis,
explanation.
Arwin.
What? Ah, you're a bad glober. You know you should have brought out the buoyancy force. Don't direct it. What kind of a glober are you?
Buoyancy, yeah, buoyancy explains your helium balloon, Nathan. Buoyancy.
Hey, Arwen, what you just said in the gas formula goes up.
What?
What?
Did you break off?
Was that a moment of lucidness there? Were we being serious then, 10th man?
Yeah, no, I was serious. He said that crap goes down. I
Don't
said,
be
but
serious.
different
It's
form, it
Friday. We're
goes
supposed
up.
to be taking the piss.
Yeah, but I was talking
No,
about
he said
actual
crap.
poop, as in
Do we have to do this?
material.
Do we have to, please?
No, he said poop goes down, and I said,
Well,
but if it's
maybe
in
the
a
methane
gaseous
gas
form,
that would be part of it would go up, but the poop itself would definitely go down.
Okay,
Well,
poop goes down, methane
either
goes
way-
up. Jolly good.
Sorry.
Either way, none of that would happen without a container.
Perfect timing, chocolate, of like minds. Talking of gas expanding to fill the container. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Nah.
Gravity.
Oh, he's not letting that go. What was the natural phenomena? You started off with things go down, then it was things going down because of a presupposition. Then it was things aren't going down, they're going up and down because of buoyancy with the presupposition. What's next? I just want a phenomena. It's nothing to do
Well,
with
I go
debunking
outside
balloons.
and I'm breathing gas pressure, and I can look out into the sky at night time, see stars, and that's a vacuum. So, by virtue of the fact that I'm breathing gas pressure, we must have gravity.
you beautiful
wow.
bastard. I was about to point out that that is an excellent demonstration of how ballers do it. Get them back on the track that they said they wanted to be on, of gravity in this instance, and then he'll answer the question that was asked before. But in this instance, he made that was nice and clear by actually using the farcical connection of the two at the end. Well done, Anthony.
Are we now attempting to revive the spirit, the broken and dying spirit of the Globers?
No, it's poke Nathan
by setting them example.
Let me contextualize.
They're all dying.
Let me contextualize this. I had a conversation for about 2 hours just with, I'll not say who, it doesn't matter who, but the question was, do you really believe that there's no downwards accelerating force of some kind? And I said, well, there doesn't need to be on our model, on whatever that model might be. We don't need it. Well, why not? And I said, okay, so think about the cherry tomato in that chamber, right, of all the fluids. Imagine that we are that cherry tomato, and all the layers below the cherry tomato are the ground. So then the cherry tomato is then sat on the ground, and all the layers above it are the different layers of the atmosphere with a big, massive ping pong ball that we're going to color yellow and call it the sun at the top. And that's going to mix everything all up in a dynamic system. And then all of a sudden, you've painted yourself a picture of the real world that we do live in without any downwards acceleration force. And and you don't even have to bullshit it with giving it other words. There just doesn't need to be a downwards acceleration force. Everything's relative to our existence. I don't mean general relativity according to Einstein. I mean relative to our existence, like relative to each other, because we are humans. We do have a relative world. And when you put it in paint it in that picture, it just, the penny drops. And then the question was, well, what about like lateral displacement? We don't really see lateral displacement. And I said, well, I'll take you back to what I said to Dr. John D when he asked me the question. I said, when you fill a bucket up with water, you don't fill it up with vertical strips of water. You fill it up, it pools at the bottom and then laterally displaces until it can go no further than the container and then starts to rise. Oh, yeah. Smoke doesn't go up in a vertical column. It does initially, but it starts to level out and go horizontal over time. You can see it with set fire cars. When I was younger, people used to steal cars where I used to live. I used to see it every weekend. There'd be a burning car early in the morning. You'd see the black smoke rising, but it'd level off. We see that everywhere, but you just don't realize it until it's pointed out to you. And then you go, oh shit, that does match reality. So shout out to that conversation. I realized that there's a lot of people out there that may not have had the explanation or didn't understand how we don't need to have a downwards acceleration force, even on our whatever model we ascribe to. We don't need it. It's relative to our environment because we are humans in this environment.
Shout out to Del West Watson, who says, will Miley be joining us today? Ha ha ha. Yeah,
I hope not.
Miley will forever represent trajectory over observation. So next time some fundy tells you everything's happening in a non-inertial spinning reference frame, forcing you to beg the question of an Earth with a spin, you can just ask them about the trajectory of a bullet, helicopter, plane, drone, or pendulum. Or gyroscope, for that matter. And what are they going to say? Well, when you observe it, will be the next words out of their mouth.
Hey, Nathan, right the hand asked a somewhat interesting question, perhaps. Did you see that?
He's blackballed. Let's not mention his name. Let's moving on.
No. You know you might be able to have a container that is bigger than a gas's expansion potential.
Like I said, let's move on.
Let me get this straight. What, he thinks that the gas will have a potential that it can, that it'll stop at?
Yeah, he actually said that.
That's like,
I knew
do you know
it was
what?
dumb, but that's great.
I'll screen capture it if you like.
I heard somebody getting ridiculed for saying that, and the gas particles run out of energy, and I think it was on Jose's chat. And the ball earther said, where's that come from? Who's ever said that gas particles run out of energy? That's ridiculous. That's actually what Conspiracy Cat said. Conspiracy Cat said that by the time that the gas particles have got up to the atmosphere, they don't have much energy left to be able to breach and get into the depths of space. That was what Conspiracy Cat said.
And what do they do when they run out of energy? What do they do?
I guess they call for breakdown recovery and get a lift back.
They just give up. They just give up. They just say, I'm not doing nothing no more. Absolute zero for me.
What?
They just stop doing anything, stop moving. They just go, fuck it, I'm giving up. And they reach absolute zero and stop.
Recovery and get a ride back to their normal level. They run out of energy.
That's it. Precisely. What Dumbo. Yeah. Anyway, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Only predictions from seismology that can be wrong, and that were demonstrably wrong when they did the Kola super deep borehole. All the predictions they predicted turned out to be wrong. How reliable?
Definitely not scientific predictions.
No, based on interpretations of squiggles and colours.
Hey Nathan, I posted a screen capture of it in the Master Beat chat.
I've got to be honest, I've got plenty of examples of Right the Hand being moronic. You know,
But I thought this one was extra special.
Just go to his channel. You know, if you want to chuckle, just watch some of the assertions he makes on his own channel. Hysterical, good for a laugh.
Anyway, it's in the Master Beat chat.
Cool, thank you very much. So have you given up on the poke Nathan with knobhead globe arguments that drive you nuts?
Who, me?
Yeah, you were like, it's Fun Time Friday, let's poke Nathan indefinitely.
I hope we don't end up on that Coriolis topic again, because it's like the worst, most boring topic ever. I know you get turned on by it sadistically, but I'm like, why do we have to talk about this again if it's not turning?
I get turned on by it.
We should just tell them, like, fuck it. You don't have this argument anymore. Like, we retire it for you because you don't understand it, and unless somebody can demonstrate it, all this talking nonsense is retarded. All this, just demonstrate it on Earth. Yeah, and then we can talk about it. Until then, retire this shit.
That's the problem. They never can, they never will, because when they do, let's say they do. They claim the Foucault pendulum demonstrates 2 reference frames. And then you just get into the arguments that we have here. Well, why doesn't it show it with the planes? Why doesn't it show it with the drones? Why doesn't the ball do that then? Because you're giving us a demonstration of Coriolis effect with that pendulum. Or gyroscope. Same exact principle. It's claimed to be demonstration of 2 reference frames. Earth rotating underneath the fixed frame of the gyro. Or Earth rotating underneath the swing of the pendulum. That pendulum moves in a straight line and it deviates from your vantage point when you watch it, which is what the fundies are going to focus on from now on now, isn't it? Well, we talk about the trajectory of that pendulum as it moves in its frame of reference in a straight line. Well, that claim comes with a contradiction. If Earth rotates underneath the pendulum, then it also rotates underneath the drone that you own and the plane that you go on. Well, you don't experience any shortened flight times because Earth's rotating underneath the plane now, do you? Your drone doesn't seem to drift away from you when you only push the up stick because Earth's rotating underneath, as it's claimed to do under the pendulum. So they don't need to give you a demonstration. They've got one. They claim the Foucault pendulum demonstrates Coriolis deviation. The pendulum moves in a straight line and the Earth rotates underneath according to that demonstration. And if the Earth rotates under the pendulum, then it also rotates under the drone. And the helicopter, and the aeroplane, and the ball, and you, if you jump up and down.
But Nathan, how about the pendulum's axial rotation?
It doesn't have one. It's moving in a straight line. That's what a pendulum does. Moving in a back and forth motion.
No, but wait a minute. The pendulum changes latitudes, though.
Oh God, Cinder, what a dumbo! What a dumbo! It changes its latitudes. Oh, right. Are you slightly getting confused with the other arguments you have in regards to Coriolis effect when talking about aeroplanes? I think you are, Dumbo.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I know.
I was laughing my ass off when that Zanuck really thought that pendulums like rotate around their own axis. It's just so hilarious. Like, where did he even get that?
You're misrepresenting him now. I don't want you to get caught out because you're misrepresenting him. No, he's saying that it will deviate, spin, if you will, an apparent spin when you observe it from the non-inertial claimed to be spinning reference frame of a spinning ball Earth. Because when talking about the pendulum, of course, they do have deviation. But they don't want to be too careful about how they describe that. They've got to keep it in a frame of reference that begs the question and tells you Earth spinning. So that win, lose or draw in this convoluted crap argument that they have about Coriolis deviation that we don't see, then they're going to always use the begging the question fallacy by attaching it to a non-inertial spinning reference frame. So therefore, all of the arguments start on the premise that you're on spinning ball Earth. That's how all their arguments work. Now that would be okay if it wasn't for us pointing out that me and Miley have a different trajectory now, don't we, fundies? And that trajectory gives you an Earth that rotates underneath a different frame of reference. The same frame of reference that a ball would be in if you tossed it or a
Why
helicopter
do they
would be in
keep
if it
saying
flew.
that the inertial
Well, I
reference
didn't
frame
get that
and the
out of what
non-inertial
Zanuck
reference
said.
frame are the same thing? Why can't they see that they're two different things?
Because they want to only use the vantage point of the person sat watching. That's why Zanuck insisted on being the voyeur watching My Little Tender Moment with Miley Cyrus on a pendulum. Because he wants to watch it. If he's always referencing his argument from the position of a vantage point that gives you standing on a spinning ball Earth, then they have what they will perceive as a win-win situation. Well, it doesn't matter if our argument's nonsensical, pulled apart, argued about to the point where they win about how a reference frame works. Their argument starts with Earth rotating. Of course, it's the only way they can argue something that doesn't happen. If you've got a contradiction, we don't see the Coriolis effect on Earth. Nothing's deviating. The claim that it does comes with the contradiction that if Earth rotates underneath a pendulum or a gyroscope or a bullet, then it's also going to rotate under planes. So they need a way to argue about it only being one reference frame. Well, how do they do it? They stick you on the reference frame that's spinning, always refer to it from the reference frame that's spinning, and never allow you to describe the trajectory, the second reference frame, the pendulum's claimed reference frame, when referred to a ball Earth that's spinning underneath. That's why they do it.
But what I'm
They say
tripping on
that
is,
the
right, if
non-inertial
Hold on,
reference
Chocolate.
frame.
Hold on, Chocolate. Go ahead, Pops.
Yeah.
They say that the non-inertial reference frame is where you're viewing the inertial reference frame from, but those are still two separate things.
Yeah,
That's why
correct.
they have two different terms to define them.
You're missing the subtlety.
And they keep saying
Yeah,
that
hold on,
you never
hold on.
leave reference frames.
You're missing the subtlety. Sorry. I will shout your super chats out, Leonardo and MC Universe, I promise. Right. The subtlety here is they're saying everything takes place in or on, depending on your phraseology and your reference frame, in or on the non-inertial spinning reference frame. That automatically begs the question. It's saying, in these examples, which we will only refer to from now on, my reference frame is always going to be a non-inertial spinning reference frame. So they're always arguing from the standpoint that Earth spins. So they're saying right here, right now, regardless of what we observe or whether or not it deviates, we'll argue about that later, let's just make it absolutely established from this point on. Everything from now on, like Zanuck says, everything's taking place on a non-inertial spinning reference frame. So they automatically have the argument take place on a spinning Earth. Because then it doesn't matter if they lose the argument. The way the argument's been phrased, you're always arguing from the point of view of a spinning ball Earth. Win-win, right? No, because we'll point out that if Earth is spinning underneath that second reference frame, the one that must not be referred to, that one that's actually the trajectory of the bullet or the pendulum or the drone, that reference frame would dictate that the Earth would rotate underneath an aeroplane at the same rate. And it doesn't. Well, so long as they can get away from ever talking about the fact that a plane would be in the inertial reference frame and never talk about the reference frame that's the inertial frame debunking them, because the inertial frame doesn't give you any deviation. We don't see planes deviate. They're not arriving 3.5 hours early when travelling from Charlotte to LA. That's not happening. Earth isn't rotating underneath anything. But so long as they always start their argument with its actually rotating reference frame we're dealing with here, then they seem to have a win in the obfuscation, win, lose or draw in the argument. It's just a way of forcing us to beg the question. It's a cheap trick which we've caught them out on, and it will never ever work from here on in. It might catch a few newbies out, but it'll certainly never work on anybody who watches this show. They understand, or anybody hopefully watching will understand now, the difference between an observation of an apparent deviation, you standing on what they claim is a spinning Earth, or any other frame of reference they decide to equivocate with, like a roundabout, and say that that is comparable to the spinning Earth, which will always be declared to be a non-inertial spinning reference frame. In other words, Earth's always going to be, in this example, spinning, no matter what we do. It's all taking place on a spinning Earth, is what he's essentially saying. That's the translation. It's all on a non-inertial spinning reference frame. Everything that happens, the pendulum, the bullet, it's all happening on that one frame of reference. In other words, I'm going to demand that Earth's always spinning in every example. And we're always going to be watching things happen from this spinning Earth. Whether or not they deviate, we can argue about that later. As long as we're begging the question in this argument, that's what they're doing. I'm going to go, no. Oh, yeah. So we've got, in this example, what, we're talking Coriolis then? What are they going to say? Oh, no. We're talking angular velocity. No, we're talking Coriolis. Proof Earth spins, and that's their proof Earth spins. The fact that fundies in the trenches have got to figure a way of constantly only referring to the one reference frame so they can beg the question and say it's always spinning in every example they make doesn't change the fact that we will point out that if that is the case, using what Coriolis dictates gives you their proof, the deviation we don't see, they'll never get to the point of begging the question and saying, no, in my example, which doesn't or does give us deviation, it's always spinning underneath. Doesn't matter if I'm arguing for Earth and atmosphere travelling as one or seeing a deviation in a bullet or a pendulum, I'll be talking about this Earth rotating as a non-inertial spinning reference frame. Always. And I'm just going to take that away from them. I've took it away from them 2 days ago, yesterday, and I'm going to do it now. Yeah? Trajectory of the pendulum would show you that the inertial frame, the frame of reference of the pendulum, or the drone, or the plane, or the helicopter, or the bullet, or the ball that Neil deGrasse Tyson says is going through the air as the Earth rotates underneath, would dictate that planes take considerably less time when flying west, because Earth is claimed to rotate underneath according to this example. 2 reference frames, inertial reference frame, which gives you the trajectory of the pendulum in their example. Well, that trajectory would be absolutely and unequivocally exemplified, increased with a huge hang time of an aeroplane or your commoner garden drone. You push the up stick and Earth rotates underneath now, does it? Well, that drone's going to drift. Not just come down in exactly the same spot it went up from. You push the up stick and watch it drift. That's what they claim proves it spins. The problem is we never see it. So the fundies in the trenches are going to talk about, oh, only one reference frame, always a spinning Earth, always taking place on spinning Earth, because I'm a fundy. All of my arguments must take place in that way. Until me and Cyrus start swinging on a pendulum. Oh, yeah? Are we on a non-inertial spinning reference frame, are we? Oh, no, it's that reference frame that must not ever be talked about. Let's go silent or rumpus the living crap out of this, because it mustn't be talked about. The reference frame the planes are in, because they don't show deviation. Shit, don't talk about that reference frame. The frame that debunks us. The one that's inertial. The one that's got a ball being tossed through it, according to Tyson. Yeah? That frame of reference must never be spoken about by fundies in the trenches. Yeah? Only say it's all taking place on a spinning ball Earth. Just beg the question, lads, you'll be fine. Because then they can argue all day about Coriolis. And we're always assuming we're spinning. So that's job's a good one. Nah, screw you, fundies. Miley Cyrus will have memes for her proving you're wrong. 2 reference frames is what's claimed Earth has to prove it spins. Non-inertial reference frame, your spinning Earth claim to be isn't. Obviously, we're stationary. But your claim to be spinning Earth is claimed to show deviation in planes, helicopters, drones, balls and bullets and pendulums and gyroscopes. And if they showed that deviation of the Earth rotating underneath, you'd get reduced flight times, like Brian Mullen discussed in great detail on Balls Out Physics, only to have his job attacked by bastards like George Netanyahu, the guy who deserves cancer for what he's done. The guy who is a monster because we're attacking Coriolis. In that instance, Brian Mullen pointed out that if the Earth rotates underneath a doesn't matter which, gyroscope, pendulum, whatever bullshit they're asserting from the globe religion side of this nonsense, then it would also rotate underneath planes. And that meant that his licence supplier needed contacting by George Netanyahu, this bastard, who's currently after Bob Nodell. He's out to ruin people's lives because he can't argue that Earth has 2 reference frames. He's got to tell me in my comments about it's all being about the observation, just like Xanix's done. Because these bastards have come up with a little ploy to convince people Earth spins. By telling you that it's always spinning and you're always on a non-inertial reference frame. And the newbies won't understand what that means. They'll think, oh, what does that mean? It means they're always begging the question. They're demanding you assume you're spinning, regardless of what you see and what effects we don't get. The effects we're supposed to get from a spinning Earth being deviation that we never ever see. So, what does that mean for Brian Mullen, who pointed that out? Go after his job, double quick. Get this man out of the arena. He can't point out how we lie, how George, the lying bastard, will go after a man's job because he points out Earth should spin underneath aeroplanes. And that's the situation we have. We're living in a time where fundamentalist religious zealots will have your career if you challenge the current religion. And that's what George is. He's a priest for the current religion. He's a hitman for the current religion. Challenge the religion and George will have your job. That's the bottom line here. He can't prove Earth's got 2 reference frames. He'll demand you only argue from the point of view that it's spinning. And we've only got 1 reference frame to observe things from. It's all about the observation according to George, when he begs the question of a non-inertial spinning reference frame. And when it's pointed out that that non-inertial spinning reference frame has an inertial reference frame that you're observing deviation in, but we don't have any, then it's time to go after your job. It's time that Brian Mullen's taken out of this argument, because he's bloody right. We don't see any deviation. Earth's not spinning. It would have 2 reference frames if it was, just as Brian Mullen pointed out. Yeah, so have his job, right, George, you bastard? Yeah, no, that's not how world works. We don't have 2 reference frames. Earth's not spinning. Doesn't mean that a man needs his job taking off him because George can't win an argument about this. Yeah, but that's what they'll do because they can't win this argument. They can't demonstrate Earth spinning. Earth isn't spinning. So what do? They go after your job. Because that's the next best thing, isn't it? If you can't win them in an argument, just have their job. Because that'll give them something to worry about beyond whether or not Earth's spinning. Yeah? Right, George? You old bastard. I hope you get your upcomings for what you've done. Yeah? Just try and win the argument and demonstrate Earth actually spins. Give us some scientific evidence rather than going after people's career. Yeah, Bob's career is more important to you than proving Earth spins, George. Isn't that what this argument's about? No. It's about shutting people up who can prove you wrong. That's all it's really about, isn't it, George? I hate these people. We're in an argument where you can have someone's job if you can't win. That's what you think this is about, George, people's career. Not an argument about whether or not you can prove Earth spins with a bit of Coriolis deviation in a plane that'll take an hour and a half to get from Charlotte to LA. No, we don't have that, just like Brian Mullen pointed out. Where's Brian Mullen now? Well, he's not here. Because George made damn sure he's not here, because he went after his job. Didn't go after the argument, went after his job. Total bastard. These are who we're dealing with, and if you're watching this and believe the Earth's a sphere, these are your representatives here in the trenches. People who can't win an argument about Earth giving you Coriolis deviation and will go after the person who points that out by going after their licence supplier. Little word in the ear of people who are providing him with his career path for the future of his actual life. And like the old bastards, they get to do this. George, at the tail end of his sad little existence, only his dog to keep company and crap arguments about Earth not turning. Earth having no Coriolis deviations, what George is here to punt. No deflection in the planes. That's his side of the crap argument here. And when you point out that's nonsense and that you should have deflection, and that's the claimed rhetoric from Neil deGrasse Tyson, he'll have your job. Because that's the next best thing to winning, isn't it, George? Having people's job. You senile old bastard.
So.
And breathe.
It does raise the valid point that if the Earth really is turning, why do you have to go after people's jobs to silence them? Why can't you just prove that the Earth's turning? Why? That is the bigger question. Why do you have to target the bloke? Look at Jason of the Disbury family. Why target the person? Why not prove the Earth turns?
Because it's not turning, and that's all they got. They need to hold on to their little fantasy.
Nathan's right. They target the people because they can't win the arguments, and they're worried about regular people learning about this. So they want to make sure that regular people are not going to learn about this information. That's why we're getting censored on YouTube and every social media platform. They just don't want this information getting out there.
Not going to get censored in the real world. The Global Eye Tour is a good little thing that gets the word out there. But the other thing that they can't touch is they can't touch academia. Because if this paper passes, and let's just say for argument's sake it doesn't pass, then I resubmit it and then it does pass. Once that gets published, you guys are going to refine the arguments for us, not supersede, refine the arguments for us so that when it does get presented, the academic world is going to see it from the perspective of law, not from the perspective of ball tardia. And they're going to go, hang on a minute, This isn't about whether or not the Earth's flat or not. This is about whether the education system's raping its students by teaching them bullshit science that's not actually science. There's a bigger picture here, and this is just one example, one application of it. So in the context of the paper, yeah, all right, it's been applied in this context of flat Earth, but it applies in other areas as well. There are other areas that are taught one-sided that are not actually true, and there's no balanced presentation of opposing views. For example, history with Hitler and the Jews and the Holocaust and all that. That's taught one-sided. You're not allowed to challenge that, apparently, but that breaches what the law says, because you have to have the balanced presentation of opposing views, not the biased presentation of opposing views. You've got to have them balanced. So you can't present, in this case, flat Earth. You can't say flat earthers are the alternative explanation and they believe there's an edge and they fall off it, because that's not balanced, is it? That's the biased presentation of opposing views. The keyword's balanced, and the ballers are not going to be able to stop it. So long as I can get this paper passed, even if it passes with just 51% and it passes, as long as it passes, then it's out there. And once it's out there, then we can have a proper discussion about it. And it won't be ridiculed anymore, because the point won't be whether the Earth's flat or not. It'll be about whether or not the balanced presentation of opposing views are being presented. And they're clearly not. We're ridiculed and dismissed. We're not being allowed to present balanced presentations of opposing views at all. And that is our right. And in the context of Brenda, for example, she gets protected because she's a minority group. We don't get protected. We're minority groups. We get ridiculed. How is it different? If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
Just a quick few shout outs. So shout out to Leonardo Gonzalez, who says, just wanted to sheen in on pendulum. If that worked at all, then maybe Zanuck could tell us how a plumb bob is supposed to work. People depend on it in construction to just stay still. Hope I've read that correct. There was a couple of typos in there. Thank you very much indeed, Leonardo Gonzalez, for the super chat. Also, shout out to MC Universe Sacred Truth Seeker, who says, I suffered nightmares from Globe Earth Dictate. Thanks for the super chat. I know about nightmares, it was very funny. Also, shout out to Tina Baker, one of my patrons. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. She says, FED is my absolute favourite. Shout out to Riley. Hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you very much indeed. Tina Baker, MC Universe Sacred Truth Seeker, and Leonardo Gonzalez for the super chats.
Mainstream science has always had the monopoly on scientific information. They always had control over what the narrative was, over what people got taught in school. And when this movement came out, they realized that they no longer had control of this narrative that's being pushed by us. So what they're doing now is they're trying to control it, and they want to make it look as ridiculous as possible. They don't want to show any of the logical points or arguments. They only want to show the ridiculous points. That's why when you go on YouTube and search for this topic, you're only going to get the trolls that are pushing the ridiculous narrative, because that's what they want. They want people to think it's dumb, it's ridiculous, it's crazy. They're not going to show anything that you guys talk about or any of the points that we've discovered here on this show, because this is logical, this makes sense. And regular people are going to understand that what we're talking about is logical and it makes logical sense. But no, they want to show the ice walls and the domes and the circling suns and the turtles on discs and stuff like that. That's what they want to push. That's what they want people to think.
You know why that is, Chris? Because they don't have arguments, right? They don't have.
They don't.
The only reason we're here is because there is no globe, right? If it was a globe, and I know I've said it before, but if we lived on a spinning water ball in vacuum, that would be evidence, right? It would just be that that's what it is. We would not be debating it. We wouldn't be arguing about it. That's what it would just be. But it's not.
Right,
That's the only reason we're here and we're questioning it, right? And the other problem is they're scared because their numbers, right? They got the numbers, sure. But the problem is their numbers can only go down, right?
Yeah.
Because most of the people are already globers. So anybody that becomes a flat earther, you know, their number goes down. And they don't like that. They don't like to see people waking up and asking questions. So you're absolutely right, Chris. They're absolutely terrified of this happening. And they have to ridicule it and make it look stupid.
Guys,
even if it makes
they
themselves
absolutely don't
stupid
want
with
that.
their own
And
arguments.
that's why the Globers are here too. They're here for the same reason. They're here because they want to learn as much about this information as possible. Even though they act as though, you know, this is all a joke and it's comedy, why are they here? You know? And why the shows every single day? Why the daily Glober shows? Why does this happen? Why does this opposition have to be put in place if, you know, we've already been debunked? Why do they have to have daily shows?
Because it's
Why do
actually
they have
serious, right? Are there Bigfoot debates, right? Are there UFO debates? No, right? Nobody's debating UFOs and Bigfoot, right? But flat Earth has to be debated, right? So that's the problem.
Because UFOs and Bigfoot prove space. You know, that's part of the space narrative. That's why that's not being, yeah, that's why they're not targeting that.
Guys, let me
anything that goes against.
Let me give a short presentation
ahead,
on bigger impacts or the bigger effects on what's happening.
Just before you do, hey Ranty.
Hello, you all right?
Very well. You presented. I'm
so Ranty.
All right. So when I was at the conference, an elderly guy who was a retired maths teacher, professor, came to me and he said, "Are you aware of what's happening currently in the creation arguments?" I says, "No, why? What?" He said, "David Attenborough is in the news currently, and he's basically saying that creationists are trying to find their way back into the education system." And I said, "I didn't realize that they were out of it." He said, "Yeah, creation was removed off the national curriculum in 2014. And I was like, "Really? I didn't even know that. Look at this. David Attenborough." So just all I've done is I've searched in Google for David Attenborough creation, right? And then just click news and you can find it. And it reads, "The question of whether or not creationism should be taught in schools in Wales is being reevaluated. The Welsh government is currently consulting on a new national curriculum that will drastically overhaul education in Wales. And unlike in England, it does not currently explicitly prohibit teaching creationism." Now, I didn't realize that England had explicitly prohibited teaching creationism. But this guy said to me, he said, "Is this what David Attenborough is referring to when he says that creationism could end up back in what's it called, the national curriculum?" And I said, "Absolutely." So what I said to him was, let's look at what I'm going to do is just present Section 406 of the Education Act again, and just in the bigger picture of different topics that are contentious. Let's just think of the effects of this. Now, obviously, I've come to this with flat Earth in mind, but there's other people that are looking at these provisions, and this is going to snowball because basically the local authorities they must forbid the promotion of partisan political views in the teaching of any subject in the school, right? They're not allowed to have promotion of partisan political views. However, if they do presentations of partisan political views, by Section 407, they must offer balanced presentation of opposing views. They can't ban creationism from the national curriculum and for it to be lawful, because whether you agree with evolution or not, whether you agree with creation or not, there is legitimate controversy over whether evolution exists, whether we were here from a big bang or whether we were created by some intelligent design, God or otherwise. These are legitimate opposing views. So if it's unlawful to teach partisan political views and you're pushing evolution over creation, heliocentrism over flat Earth, there are wider reaching ramifications with the implementation of these provisions that nobody realizes is there. So if for no other reason that these conversations now start taking place in the bigger picture, if it's the case that Brenda as a minority group gets protection, why is it we've got to accept ridicule? Why is creation being removed out of the national curriculum when they are a legitimate opposing view? Not everybody agrees with evolution. Not everybody agrees with heliocentrism. Not everybody agrees with homosexuality, but it's encouraged for whatever reason. But my point is that the bigger consequences of this provision being discussed like adults, not as ballers on this topic, but as adults in general on the bigger application of this provision or these provisions, means that there are potentially a lot of wide-reaching effects in the sense that the government can't push political agendas through education to indoctrinate children. They've got to give balanced presentation of opposing views, which they're currently not doing. So at the absolute least case scenario, we get to say, hey, we don't think we're living on a ball. These are our reasons why. These are our balanced presentation of opposing views. I personally wouldn't say that the Earth's flat, because that's not necessarily balanced, although some people may disagree and say it is a balanced presentation of opposing views. But the point is that the views need to be presented to be heard. Now, obviously, that applies in numerous different topics, not just in this topic. So if nothing else, when this paper, if this paper does pass, and I'm not sure it will, I think that they'll stamp on it for political reasons that go beyond the merits of the paper. But if it does pass and it gets published, once I get that edu link next to it, then it can be cited. And it applies in a lot of topics, not just in flat Earth. So creation, evolution, I can see creation getting, as David Attenborough doesn't like, being put back into the national curriculum. Because absolutely, if you agree that evolution is the absolute way forward, why would you indoctrinate children into believing that rather than give them the choice? Because whether or not you accept evolution or not, it doesn't change the fact that there are valid opposing views against evolution, because you don't get a swamp donkey mutating into a bison overnight. There's never, ever been a change in kind, like Kent Hovind says. That's what's necessary for evolution. There's no evidence that that's true. But you can believe it if you want to, in the same way that you can believe that gravity is not a force, but that doesn't make it true. So which is the religion? Which is the dogma? Is it what we're being taught? Or should you be given the choice and not be preached to? And should you be told that these things are not actually considered to be true? There is legitimate controversy opposing them, and you should be then presented the balanced, not biased, the balanced presentation of opposing views, because it shouldn't be the case that kids are being indoctrinated. Now, you can heliocentrism is one topic. Creation and evolution is another topic. Religion in general is another topic. Everybody's taught to be multicultural in terms of religion, right? You can't discriminate against Islam in the same way you can't discriminate against Catholicism. Everybody's equal in them topics, but you're not equal if you think that evolution might not be true. You're not equal if you think that flat Earth, heliocentrism might not be true. You guys are dismissed and ridiculed. However, in the law, you're entitled to, and as it says, Section 407, the balanced presentation of opposing views, because there are legitimate complaints, disagreements, valid opposition to why we're not living on a ball, or that we didn't evolve from a monkeyfish. This is legitimate, and we are entitled to it. So guess what's going to be happening, ballers? You might not like my paper, but it ain't going away. And none of you can challenge it, because none of you are intelligent enough or capable of. The only people that can are people in my industry, my profession, my world, professions. So in other words, you morons have all got an opinion, and I'm not even interested in your opinion, to be honest with you, because most of you are missing the point of the paper. The point of the paper is not about flat Earth. Tim Osman got it right when he said, I only mentioned flat Earth twice in the whole document, and that was in one sentence. Because I said, people that believe the Earth is flat are known as flat earthers. Didn't mention it again in the whole document. So it's not about whether or not the Earth's flat. It's about whether or not education is lying to people and teaching them a one-sided thing that doesn't tell them that there are opposing views, and actually passively indoctrinating people. So answer the point of my paper, and then I might listen to you. So if you're just going to bitch about typos, I'm not interested. Address the point that's being made. Are children being indoctrinated? Yes. Why are they not getting the balanced presentation of opposing views? How dare you challenge whether or not we're on a ball? I'll make sure that you lose your license as a conveyancer or whatever it was that an engineer, because we don't like people challenging our religion. We are fundamentalists. We're fundies. We don't like you, and we'll make sure that you lose your job. I'm done.
A lot to be commended in terms of what you're doing at the moment.
Couldn't agree more, bro.
Yeah, but this is making motions to change things, as opposed to discussing the subject, trying to raise awareness. Those are all very admirable things also, but this is strive for change. This is directly, potentially impactful in terms of how the system, the matrix, however the bloody hell you not fundies, you, what's the one, conspiratards want to phrase the world that we live in that regard, but this could actually change that.
Not just that, it's the fact that it's not about changing the legislation. The legislation's already there. It's demanding that the legislation does what it says, and not allowing the government to teach their policy, their educational policy, in contravention of it. You don't have to agree that creation is or is not the reason why we're here. But what you do have to agree is that the creation argument is presented, and then you've got the choice to make whether or not you accept it to be true or not. What you cannot do is suppress that so that kids don't even think that there's a creation argument. I didn't even realize that creation was removed out of the curriculum. And when he told me that it had gone in 2014, I was like, holy shit, why did that not become mainstream news? I'm not saying that I was ignorant at the time. I clearly was, but I didn't hear about it. But creationism was removed since 2014. I think that's outrageous because I don't necessarily agree in the religious context. I don't like the religion argument. I don't like picking a side. I do realize that there must be an element of intelligent design of some kind. Doesn't necessarily mean God. Probably is God, but I'm all right with being neutral. But I do absolutely realize that you guys cannot indoctrinate children and suppress the obvious explanation for why things magically burst into life at the moment of inception when there's a little sperm breaching the egg. Something happens there that science can't prove or cause because they've been trying to create Frankenstein for donkey's years and they've never done it. That's like Ares' failure. The fact that you can't create a Frankenstein body from nothing means that it can't be evolution because someone has to create it. It doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be God with a big G or a little g. It doesn't have to be Allah. It doesn't have to be anybody. It doesn't have to be a team. But something somehow has got to have created it, right? And you've got to be a dickhead, literally a dickhead, to ignore that fact because you can't get something from nothing. Something somewhere has got to put energy into it, information, intelligence. That's got to go into something. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. Come on, it's obvious.
I'm going to do a quick shout out to a couple more super chatters. So shout out again to MC Universe Sacred Truth Seeker. Thank you for the super chat. It says, it's a battle of symbols and images. Through the repetitive use of symbols and images, we are all turned into boltards. Yeah, very, very well said. Adrian Quintana, another one of my Patreons, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, great stuff. Thumbs up, smiley face. Is there anything else anybody wants to add before I ask the people watching on Nathan Oakley 1980 stay tuned for the after show? Because I don't think I'm going to top that, Anthony. That was a pretty cool rate to round out.
This is the last comment. He says, the paper is appallingly written. And yeah, well, that's only appallingly written if you don't understand what's being addressed in it. And you clearly don't, because none of you have addressed the point that's being made. The idea of a balanced view is invalid. No, it's legally required, Rumpus. It has to be balanced. You have to present the balanced presentation of opposing views. It's not invalid. It's lawfully required. You seem to have got the opposite of what it says. You know, like when it says gravity is not a force, but you act like it is one. The legislation wishes reputable sources to be included. No, it doesn't. It demands that there is the balanced presentation of opposing views. It has absolutely nothing to do with repute, because if it did, there wouldn't be any evolution arguments, would there? Let's be honest. You don't get a swamp donkey turning into a reptile ever. There's never, ever been a change in species. Not crackpots. Yeah, well, we're littered with the crackpots. It's not us that's the crackpots. It's us saying, hang on a minute, is this true? Lessons on pixies, etc. Gravity, perhaps. Axial rotation, perhaps. Earth gas pressure next to a vacuum without containment of some kind, perhaps. Not allowed. You're right, they're not allowed. So let's have the balanced presentation of opposing views where we point out that you can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of membrane. It doesn't have to be a dome. It can just be some barrier that we can't tell or whatever because it's too far away from us. It's behind the stars, perhaps. Who cares? But we realize that you can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum, right? That one thing kills your whole model. It doesn't matter that you can't prove Earth turn. It doesn't matter that you can't prove gravity. You can't have gas pressure without a container. Stop being dishonest and realize that you morons are the ones that are the religiotards.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to all of you who tuned in live on the Nathan Oakley live stream. If you are watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. A massive thank you to all of today's debating panel. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Man, way to hug the mat there, Tony. Bloody hell.
I agree with you and Nathan 100% on both the rants that y'all went on, because yeah, it's out here getting ridiculous. People are trying to take other people's jobs because they don't agree with shit. Like, are you kidding me? This is really the fucking world we're living in. I'm sorry for my language, but like, it pisses me off too. Like, how are you gonna go after somebody's job because you don't agree with their belief on gravity? Are you kidding? And we're supposed to take these people seriously. I mean, it's amazing to me. In a world like, I want to give a shout out to Issa, because he says this all the time. He's like, wait, so in today's world, people can literally choose their gender. Well, if that's cool, then I can choose my goddamn cosmology, right? You can't tell me what I can believe in, what I can't believe in. If there are people running around who say, oh, I could be a woman today, or I could be a man, or a helicopter, or whatever the fuck I want to be. Are you kidding?
So that's why I think we use Brenda as the example, right? She's actively protected for her rights to be whatever she wants to be. If she wants to be a giraffe, she can be, and I agree with that. If she wants to be a giraffe, she's an adult, she can make them decisions herself. Who am I to question what she wants to be? If she wants to present as male or female, that's her prerogative, and it's none of my business. And I don't agree with anybody that challenges her on that basis, right? Which is why I was gobsmacked when she gave me a privacy strike recently. But anyway, but that being said, she gets the protection as a minority group that we don't get any protection of, and we get dismissed with ridicule. That's not fucking acceptable.
Yeah, she literally has more, he, whatever, literally has more rights than you, or, you know, has more of a fair shot in today's world than you, just because you don't believe you live on a ball. Like, insanity, man.
She gets more protection by being a majority, what's the word? A majority status individual, or whatever it is these days. Then she gets protected, right? And now I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying is, if she gets it, I want it. Because why the fuck should I be discriminated against? Because I'm asking the question: prove Earth turn, prove that we've got gas pressure, prove curve. Why should I be dismissed with ridicule if Brenda gets protected?
Oh, Chocolate, how many times has it happened, and by whom?
Pardon?
Getting a lot of feedback from
how
you,
many
whoever that
times
was.
has he muted himself? It's alright. How many times has someone lost his job because of being a flat earther, and who was responsible for it?
Oh, George Netton got in touch with Brian Mullen's license supplier. He's discussed it quite openly. This is a known fact. He went after the man's job.
As a result of questioning the shape of the earth. There are numerous other people, Jason of the Disbury family, that might lose his job right now, currently. There are numerous people that will try causing shit on your side, and it's fucking disgusting. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on our side. It does, and it shouldn't, because it's got fuck all to do with people's private worlds, and I disagree with it. There are limits to disagreeing with people, and you shouldn't try and cause people shit. But that being said, it happens on both sides, and it needs to be pointed out. And if you're stupid enough to think that this doesn't happen, you're a fucking idiot.
Not to mention Bob Nodell. You forgot to mention Bob Nodell also lost jobs because of discussing this topic.
I expressed
and apparently, I think from what Bob Nodell says, George is actually trying to go after Chris Van Matry also.
Yeah.
Currently, right now, like George is active right now doing what George does. Like, oh my god, like.
That's pure scum. That I don't know how or why George would think that's acceptable, given the shit that he got when he did Brian Mullen. It's because Chris Van Matry's got something that they don't like. That's what it is.
You're dealing with sore losers, bullies who resort to dirty tactics, and they got the system behind them.
And that's the only reason they do it, is because they have the system behind them. Because if they approach people like that on some real shit, they get their teeth handed to them, right? But you're gonna sit behind a computer and dox people and go after their job because you have no arguments. That's called bitch made where I'm from.
Bitch made,
sorry.
Right.
So if it was true, because I'm not 100% certain, I haven't heard any evidence for it to be true for now. Other than someone accusing him of it. If it was true, those were like just single examples of people behaving quite badly and quite disgusting towards other people with different opinion. But you are talking like it was a big problem that flat earthers don't get jobs anymore because they are flat earthers, and that's not the case.
No, the big problem
George
is that
admitted to doing it himself. He admitted that he actually did that. So it's not us that are making up some kind of story. He admitted it himself.
Let's be clear with what the problem was. The problem is not that Cinder, the problem's not that some flat earther's not got a job anymore. He's still got his job. The problem is that he was silenced because he was questioning the authority. That's the problem.
And I bet you if you went to a university and talked to the university and told them you're a flat earther, they probably wouldn't hire you.
Why do you think I'm getting told that I can't submit my paper?
Probably not when it comes to, I don't know, when it comes to certain topics on physics. But probably not. If you're a biologist, probably yes. If you are whatever, if you go to a university and study astrophysics and you say you are a flat earther, I mean, why should they hire you? That would completely contradict the thing that you study.
Contradict their religion, right?
Yeah, contradict their rhetoric. So yeah, you couldn't get a job because you didn't agree with what they say you should say. Is that what that's your point, right?
Yeah.
All right. If you apply to an organization to protect animals, and your opinion is that animals don't have a right to live because they are like lower than humans, and we shouldn't treat them with certain respect, whatever, then obviously you don't get in that organization.
False analogy fallacy.
Correlate with
false
the place you want to go.
And wait a minute, and you think that that's your fucking business? You think that's your business to go into somebody else's shit, into their life, and disturb their family, their situation? You think that's cool in there? Just because you don't agree with whatever the fuck they believe in? Are you kidding?
That's completely not what I said.
Are you kidding right now?
What is your problem, dude?
I'm good on y'all. I'm good on people that think like you guys, because this is some real piece of shit tactics,
something related to what you said. I'm not saying it is okay to go to someone else's family and destroy his family.
Fanatical religious zealotry. That's all it is.
Exactly.
And they think that they're getting away with it. Their actions are screaming fanatical religious zealotry. Right? Don't you guys know that?
Yeah.
You ball-tards. Don't you realize that with your actions?
So Zinder, you don't think that going after someone's job and making them lose the means of supporting themselves and their family, that's not going after someone's family?
It's completely not what I said. I don't even know why you're asking me the question.
Well, we're talking about
you sound like you're halfway defending this bullshit, Zinder. That's why.
Oh,
right? You chose to step up and talk about this shit. Well, you're gonna eat it now.
What I said.
He equated the animal to the education system. That's what he did.
Yeah, it was a false analogy fallacy.
I know, but that's what he did. It's not Chocolate. You were wrong on this one. He didn't. That's not what he said.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Zinder, if I was wrong about Zinder, whatever. I don't care. If you have a problem with somebody's argument, you destroy their argument. You don't go after their fucking life. All right?
Precisely. Of course, that's completely stupid if you go after
I
their
do
life.
agree with that. Of course.
Yeah, like every reasonable person would agree with it. That you don't go after their life if you have a problem with their argument, obviously.
Right, but we're dealing with people who aren't reasonable. That's the problem, Zinder.
There are a lot of people who aren't reasonable on both sides, obviously. But what I'm saying
it's mainly
is that
one side.
Most
it's mainly one side.
Yeah,
Sorry
of course. That. Yeah, sure,
have you ever been doxxed?
So
well, Cinder, let's say that organization is supported by the government and it only allows one to exist, that is a problem. You know?
Cinder, have you ever been doxxed?
There's a lot of people that don't agree with that, and both sides have to be listen.
Zinder, have you ever been doxxed?
No.
Zinder. No?
Or maybe I doxed myself once.
Right, you've doxed yourself, right? Forget about you doxing yourself. Has anybody ever tried to find out where you live, who your sister is, where your mum and dad live, job you do, anything like that? Has anybody on our side ever tried to do that to you?
That I can remember.
Right, and why is that? Because none of our side are interested in what you do for a living, right? You're just a dude, but you think it's a flat, you think it's a ball, and we don't agree with you. But that doesn't mean that we're going to go around to your job and tell you that you've been wearing a t-shirt in your car and you shouldn't have been whilst you were preaching flat earth. That we're not going to do that. Why would we do that? We accept that you've got a different view of opinion, but we're challenging it. And what we're finding is that when we challenge it and we get right over the target, all of a sudden, lots of shit starts happening and people don't like it. Rather than prove that they're right, they try and sabotage your career or your job or your life or your whatever. And I think when that doesn't happen to you, Zinder, you can't really appreciate what's going on, because they've tried doing it to me, but it doesn't matter to me because I'm self-employed, blah, blah, blah. But they can't, I'm kind of untouchable in this because they can't do anything to me, and that's fine. That's why I can do what I'm doing, and I'm literally putting in a fucking, what's the word? A fox in amongst the pigeons, or a fox in amongst the chickens, because there's going to be a fucking bloodbath, and I hope that this gets all the traction it gets, and it gets discussed about this topic, not in this topic, but in evolution, over creation, and all the other fucking bullshit that we're being taught in school, because it affects everybody just in a different perspective. From
evolution over creation, what the hell is that?
And with that, I'm going to say, if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980, then a massive, huge, enormous thank you for tuning in, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live and after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!